and we would just continue to dig into your word and to take something away from tonight that we didn't have when we came in, and ask all these things. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So tonight we're going to be kind of picking back up where we left off. I think this is like part 2 of where we were the previous week. We're going to start in Matthew chapter 25, verse 6. If anybody has that, if they can go ahead and please read that.
All right. It says, at midnight they were roused by the shout, "Look, the bridegroom is coming. Come out and meet him."
So the first part of this lesson was it said to write down basically what happens for each of the verses, and determine if they are related to the same event that's referenced in that first passage that we read. I guess there's one or two ways we can do it. There's 5 scriptures, and I can read them out, and someone will find each one of the scriptures, and then we can read them all at once. We can read them all at once, and then we can come back and just recap each one, and then talk about each one, and then we can go like that. The first one is Matthew chapter 24, verse 36. Can I get somebody to get that? Got it. Matthew 24, verses 30 to 31. You can get that one. Got that one. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16 and 17. You got that one. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 2. Can I get somebody to get that one? You got that one. And the last one is Revelations chapter 1, verse 7. I could be an auctioneer. Y'all give me nods and fingers down here. You got the first one.
It reads, however, no one knows the day or the hour when these things will happen, not even the angels in heaven or the Son himself. Only the Father knows.
Can you read one more time?
However, no one knows the day or the hour when these things will happen, not even the angels in heaven or the Son himself. Only the Father knows.
Can I get the second scripture, please? Oh, I'm sorry, Matthew 24, verse 30 and 31.
Okay. Then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the 4 winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
The next scripture is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16 and 17. And we'll go back to them. I just want to do them back to back to back so that we can hear how they all kind of look together. Does anybody else have that one? Okay. 4 verse 16 and 17.
Verse 16 says, for the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord.
And then 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 2.
For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night.
And then the last one, Revelations 1:7.
Behold, he is coming with clouds, and every eye will see him, even they who pierced him, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn because of him. Even so, amen.
So, just at first glance and kind of hearing all of the scriptures and how they kind of relate, like what is I guess a common theme that you notice in all of the those passages, or what comes to your mind when you just hearing those back to back to back, what thing you get through throughout the whole
Like
each of those scriptures.
the return of Christ and like what's happened, like how it will be, kind of when he comes back.
Return of Christ. Anybody else?
What was I saying? Coming up with
Come on,
the
anybody
second
else?
coming of Christ, and like how nobody knows when it's gonna happen, but then it tells like what we'll see when it happens in here.
Anybody else, as far as when you read it or heard it, or what came to your mind when you heard these scriptures?
Same thing you just said. Word for word.
Same thing.
No, it's just that you don't know when he's coming.
Mhm.
He is coming. You
Right.
just don't know when. So he's ready.
Anybody else? Even if it's a repeat.
But I think as it relates to the lesson, the title, the fact that we need to all be ready when he does come,
Yeah.
regardless.
Okay, so now I kind of want to just go through each of the scriptures and break those down a little bit more, as best we can. So the first one, the Matthew 24:36. You can reread that, Trey, and we'll just try to break it down a little bit.
It reads, however, no one knows the day or the hour when these things will happen, not even the angels in heaven or the Son himself. Only the Father knows.
So it's for the most part, it's straightforward. I guess for the question I have is like, what in this passage like stands out the most? Like, what is it like to you, what's like a significant part of the passage? Because we already said that we know he's coming back, but as far as in this particular verse, what stood out to you when you read it? Because for me, there was one part that stood out to me, but I want to wait. So let anyone else answer?
For me, I think it's the part where it says like not even the Son knows. And I think about like all the people like in the past that have like predicted like, huh? What?
Yeah, 24:36. Keep going.
No, just like all the people that kind of like say like they know when the world's gonna end and stuff like that. Predicting it's kind of like you kind of exalting yourself above Christ when you make say stuff like that because not even the Son knows.
Anybody else? Could be anything related to the passage.
I was really thinking like kind of the same thing John said. I was kind of gonna say that about like people always want to say, well, the world's gonna end or something, and like that nobody knows when he's gonna come back. So
Anybody else on that passage?
Only reason I said what I said is because in King James Version, in verse 36, it only says, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. So it leaves that in the Son part, at least in that scripture particularly.
But it's implied.
But the part that I was just gonna say is the fact that it stood out to me is the fact that not even the angels in heaven know, and I mean like they're right there with God. So it's like you would be like, is he whispering? Is he talking about it? And them being as close as they are to him in like proximity, they don't even know.
Yeah.
And so just like Jalen said, people that are always coming up with the new end of the world date, it's coming, it's gonna be X, Y, Z, here it is.
Yeah.
And it always comes and it always goes, and we're like, well, okay, what happened? So it's like, we can't believe anything that, man comes up with, because they don't know in the word itself says, so.
Anybody else have anything to add?
I agree. Yeah, because we've known, going back in history and school and all the predictions that have been made and they read this verse right here and it just stops all that nonsense in its tracks.
I think, does anybody else have anything to add, big or small? I just basically said what you guys said, that no one but God knows, like I thought about, I think about, just like the fact that, kind of like you were saying, Mom, just like, that we have to be ready. Like, so like, or I have another question, and that gave me another question actually, was, that being said, if we did know when he was coming back, would that change? Kind of like we talked about last week, about knowing when your last day would be, like, would that change a lot for a lot of people? Would that change anything for a lot of people? Would they keep living the same and be like, oh yeah, he's coming back?
You try to wait till the day
Put a date
before
on it.
or the hour before.
Or just thinking that I'm still
I got time.
okay, I'm still good, and just being the same way. You know what I mean? Just a question.
Greg Petrie says, it's amazing that Jesus is at the right hand of the Father, and he has no idea when God will say now is the time.
And that's what I'm thinking. Like, I thought about, like, if you think like some like really dynamic teams, like, I don't know, give me a duo, a really good duo, like somebody of those, like
Batman and Robin?
Batman, Robin, what are you gonna do? Just think of like how in sync they were. Think of like Kobe and Shaq. Think of any dynamic duo, people that just click and they're in sync with everything, which is basically what God the Father and God the Son are. Like they're one, but it's just like for Christ himself to not even know. To me, it's like if anyone has like entitled to know, it'll be the one that sit down,
Right there, that's why I
had
said
his
right
back,
there.
had, his father turned his back on for us, and then like he still doesn't know, and just thinking about that is kind of crazy. The next scripture we go to, if everybody's knowing that one, Matthew 24, 30 and 31, verses 30 and 31.
Can we read it again?
Yes, please.
Then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
Okay. For this one, we'll break it down for each verse. So in verse 30, it talks about like the signs, like basically right upon his arrival. And it says that the Son of Man is coming, he will appear in the heavens. And then not just that part, but then when it goes on to say, and there will be deep mourning among all the peoples of the earth. To you guys, what is that? Because I'm thinking to myself, like when I was reading it at first read, I was like, okay, Christ is coming back. Everyone can see it, because it says everyone will see it, everyone will bow down. But then after that comma, it says, and there will be deep mourning. So like, did you guys dig any deeper into that? Did you not pick up on it, or like what? Because honestly, at first for me, it was a little bit confusing. Like, well, why is there mourning going on? If
That's what I was.
why is there a mourning going on if upon his arrival? Like.
Well, I think maybe those who don't believe, were sad that they are mourning because all this time I've said there is no God or he doesn't exist, and there he is, and I've wasted my life.
And I always thought that like the rapture was like And to me, I always thought that it'd be like a quick thing. So like, you won't like really. I mean, I guess you'll see it, but like, you'll be like gone before you know it. And if the people that are still there, and they like, I don't know. I always thought in my head like they'll be able to see like stuff happening, but they don't get taken up with it. And then that's why the morning part comes in, because it'd be like, oh, I didn't make it.
My Bible has a footnote, or it references Revelation 1:7. And Revelation 1:7 says, "Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him. And all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, amen." To me, it's like the ones, it's like, and I don't know that this is not the rapture. This is
Yeah,
the
that's what he
second
just
coming.
said.
This
Yeah,
is
the
after.
rapture and the second coming
This
are
is
two
after,
two separate events.
when we
This is like the final
showdown.
final show. Yeah, this is when but still,
They're
what do you think about the morning?
Well, the ones, like I say, the ones who pierced him would, I would think he came first to the Jews, and they didn't receive him, and they were the, like the religious leaders, they were the ones that were saying crucify him, crucify him, and it's in, I guess historical sense. So they're gonna like you said, even the ones who didn't believe, oh, that wasn't Jesus, he wasn't the Messiah, not the one, and they're like, oh man, I'm broken up now because I was wrong, and I've missed my opportunity.
More of a like he kind of like they're kind of like reveals like he is who he said he was, and it's kind of like at this point, like I can't do anything about it at this point. It's too late.
Right.
Anybody else have a?
I just have a quick clarification for anyone that kind of just kind of discern the two, the rapture and the second coming. The rapture will be secret and instant, and the scripture reference for that is 1 Corinthians 50:50. And the second coming is visible to all. It says the second coming of Christ will not occur until after certain other end time events take place, while the rapture is imminent and it can take place at any moment.
The scripture, the second scripture.
1 Corinthians 50-54.
Chapter what?
Oh, chapter 15, sorry.
No,
Which one?
the rapture. No, the second coming.
2 Thessalonians 2:4, and then the one you just read in Matthew 24.
You said
I missed it too.
2 Thessalonians 2:4.
and then for the
For the
1
rapture?
Corinthians 15 and what?
Yeah, 15:50-54. That was concerning the rapture.
One thing I was thinking about when it was talking about then all tribes of the earth will mourn, I was kind of thinking about it like coming on both sides, like the way y'all were talking about the people that like didn't believe and were having doubts, but I also think of the people that like did believe and were fighting for others and putting all their time. These people now are mourning because like
There's no.
there's nothing else
Yeah.
they can do.
Yeah, that's
So,
good. That's really good. I didn't think of it. That way. Go on.
Am I wrong?
No, you're right. You're right.
So Graves is a little late.
See.
Then just another comment we got. It says much like the soldiers didn't realize who Jesus was until he actually died on the cross, and that was in reference to like the mourning. So kind of like once you kind of realize like, oh, that's who he was, and that's who he said he was. It's kind of a reference to the mourning.
And then there was
Can I add something?
yes.
I was trying to find Zechariah and stuff to find. Anyway, when it talks about mourning, I have a reference to Zechariah 12, verse 10 and 12, 10 through 12. And it says, and I will pour out of the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem a spirit of grace and pleas for mercy, so that when they look at me on whom they have pierced, they shall mourn for him, as one mourns for an only child and weeps bitterly over him, as one weeps over him.
Kind of think of it like the passages that in reference to like, they're like, they say like, like mourn over the lost, or like those that don't have a relationship, like you're almost broken in a sense, because they don't have that relationship. And then in verse 31, you still have it, you? Want to read it one more time? 31.
Oh, sorry.
Matthew 24. Wait, are we on the?
Verse 31. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
Anybody have any initial thoughts of what you would?
First of all, I think makes me think of, and I'm not sure where the scripture is. It's like when the trump sounds, the dead in Christ will rise. So when he comes back with those who are in heaven, the dead meet up together with the living, and they're all together. So it doesn't matter where you are. We're gonna all be together at one place, or at the sound of the trumpet. It's like everybody can hear it. It's not like you think about how's that possible, because I watched like the whole series of like Left Behind, or I read the whole novel series pretty much, and it just made me think about like how in the day and age we live in technology, everybody can see everything pretty much almost at the same time if it's broadcast. Like if you're not standing there, you're seeing it on a TV screen. What happened, overseas, or the earthquakes? We're not there, but we actually can see, everything that's happening almost at any place in time. And so being able to, make himself seen by all is kind of, amazing in itself. And just knowing like, well, how are they going to see it, on the other side of the world, that kind of thing. But that's what stands out to me.
Anybody else?
I think like, how it says that we need to prepare for like the Lord's second coming, and like the Father's the only one that knows, and it says that, and he will send out his angels, and I think it's like his angels have to come be prepared too for when he like sounds that trumpet, because they don't know either, so they kind of like gotta be ready for that too, which I think is kind of cool.
I was gonna say something on that. Go to the verse.
I think the trumpet sounding kind of correlates to the parable itself of the virgins, like at midnight when the cry rings out, hey, the bridegroom is here. And that's kind of like our, cry that the bridegroom, that Christ is back.
Yeah. I always like I was talking about on, I don't remember if it was Sunday, but like when I read things like visually, like I have like I visualize things, but I just picture like a big like army like assembling. Like I think about kind of like the movie 300. Like there's like just some masses of soldiers going out to a final judgment. But like the only difference is like you're not gonna lose. It's like the finals this year, kind of like the Warriors, which is funny. But like how they swept them. They went through and they swept. But it's just like that's how it's gonna be. You know what I'm saying? Like for that final judgment. And like you said, all those, the dead in Christ and those that are still here, but that are still a part of Christ, is just like what that really gonna look like. Like a really like I don't know. The word epic comes to my mind, but you can jump in the comments.
Taking it all in.
And the next one we're going to is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 16 and 17.
Verse 16 says, "For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord."
And this is kind of pretty much just a parallel passage to what we just read. Worded a little bit differently. It says, the one part that for me that stood out when it says, after the trumpet call of God, and it says, and I don't tell me if your versions read different. It says, first, the believers who have died will rise from the graves. And it says, then, together with them, we who are still alive and remain on earth will be caught up in the air, in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. I don't know if there's any significance to like the order of that, or it's just because they've already gone on, so they're already with him when he comes. But like I said, this was kind of like just a continuation from the last passage, but if there's anything that anyone wants to input on this passage here.
I just don't think people understand how large of a scale this was going to be. It's not just going to be people on the earth, like it's people who's died in Jesus' time is going to be part of it. And like to think that everybody in the world is going to see it, like not like you know how big the sun is, and everybody in the world see that at once.
Yeah.
So it's just really amazing how large of a scale this is going to happen.
Another thing that kind of stands out to me is just how awesome God is and just like how he works and how we can't comprehend. But can you imagine that trumpet call? Like, you think of like a train horn. That's kind of like the loudest thing I can think of that you can hear from a long distance away. But like the magnitude of just what that was, like how that's gonna.
You know, I think about the trumpet. I think about like whenever you hear someone like playing like taps or like anytime like, and it's like everyone in the room like
The focus is
yeah,
there.
like,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have to focus on it. It's
I
kind of
like that.
like just thinking about that like on a grander scale.
I like that. I didn't think about that.
Mhm.
Usually everyone's at attention when that song is being played. Yeah. The next passage is the next chapter, 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 2. Somebody could read that.
All right. It says, "For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night."
So this kind of goes back to when we were talking about the 10 virgins. Bob, what is this passage? I mean, besides obviously his return being very spontaneous, what else do you pull from this particular passage?
For me, it's kind of like, I don't know if it varies from verse to, or from translation to translation, but mine says, like, you know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. So it's kind of like, you know it's going to come.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought about it like, if you like say like you have like a home, like you think about your home and like, say you live in like a high, like a high crime rate area, like bad things happen. So it's like, how do you prepare for that though? Do you know what I'm saying? You're going to install some security system in your home. It's just kind of like thinking about, okay, it's going to happen, but you don't know when. So it's just like, just how prepared are you going to be when it comes?
It's like the inevitable.
Yeah.
Can I read Matthew 24, 43 and 44? This is what you said. It says, "But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh." So just kind of like, if you know somebody's gonna break in your house, are you gonna leave it unprepared? No, you're gonna be,
Ready.
watchful and ready. So just like that, we need to, knowing that Christ could come at any moment, we need to be, on our P's and Q's, at the same rate,
I think, like, looking at it from if you take thief and you take it, you know, I think we know thief in a negative connotation, you know, what a thief is. And then if we turn it and we turn it to a positive connotation, we look at it like, I think in you know, Nate kind of talks about this all the time as far as, you know, when we have people come to Christ or we bring people to Christ, I think people have the wrong vision. So when they come a lot of times, they think that there's going to be no more sorrow, no misery, no more hard times. And I think that the thief part is like, when I'm coming back, I'm going to come and get you. And, you know, the reward is, you know, for all your dedication and your hard work and you standing in and believing in me and walking with me and, you know, not giving in to this world. Well, guess what? No more suffering. So I'm going to come back as that thief and I'm going to take you because you have, you kind of ran your course. You've done everything I've asked you to do. So now it took, I was like, after reading about 4 times, like, there's got to be something else in there. So after you read it about the 4th and 5th time, you start trying to dig a little further to see what else can you, and I think about it like that, or as far as like you said, okay, you know, for all of the long suffering that you've had to do to walk with me, because I know it hasn't been easy. Okay, well, here I am.
Yeah, and we just got another comment. Q just saying, like, kind of piggybacking off what you said. Quentin just said, a good thief is a thief that you don't know is coming, and like we don't know when he's coming. So like, the Lord is the thief. So like, he's gonna be.
He's gonna sneaky tiptoe. It's not like make a whole lot of noise, but scoop us up. You know.
When you put it in that connotation, like you took thief and made it like a positive thing, I kind of think of like Robin Hood. Right.
Yeah.
So like a lot of the people like people that are maybe rich in the things and aspect of this world, like he comes and steals, like he kind of takes us away from that, but it's for greater. You know what I'm saying? Like, it gives us something greater. I don't know, when you said that, I thought of like Robin Hood, but because those people that Robin Hood was stealing from, they were good, but they weren't trying to help out those people that were struggling. You know what I'm saying? But those people that were struggling, they were persistent and they tried to keep running the race. It's like eventually they were rewarded. So I kind of thought about that, but that was pretty cool. Anybody else? I gotta watch Robin Hood. The last one, as far as for this section, is Revelations chapter 1, verses 7.
It says, "Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, amen."
To me, like, this particular passage kind of like is like that moment in time, like that moment where it's like that, oh snap, like that moment where, oh, like he's here, you know, and like this is kind of like what's taking place.
Like Independence Day, the movie.
Yeah.
When the ships first came in the atmosphere and they came in and there was fire and clouds. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
But everybody saw it.
Everybody saw it.
Yeah.
Believers, non-believers.
Didn't matter what ethnicity, didn't matter. Everybody saw it. And then the word mourn again. I think for this particular passage, it says, "And all the nations of the world will mourn for him." I think it's kind of like I don't know. I don't think it's quite the same connotation as the first mourn that we read. You know, I think it's more of a humble, like, Is that what it says in the?
Like they're crying, "Oh Lord, you know, I missed out," or what, you know. It's gonna be the sorrow is probably internal, more for self, longing to. Oh, I wish I had
Wailing is different from crying. Wailing is just pouring all of yourself out.
We've seen that.
Yeah, we've seen that.
I was gonna say,
I want to say like, wailing. When I think of wailing, I don't really think of one emotion. I think of like it's just so much. Like
all
you can't even contain it.
Yeah, it'd be so powerful. Like you can't speak. It's just gonna be every time you try to say something, it's gonna be a wail.
Scream, just loud, just
It's uncontrollable.
Yeah.
Just one quick thing going back to the thief. Greg said a good thief is specific about what he's coming to get. Jesus knows exactly who he's coming for.
That's true. Does anybody else have anything else for
Revelation.
the last one? The last kind of section of this we'll break down is Matthew 25 and verses 7 through 13. Got it.
Okay, it says, all the bridesmaids got up and prepared their lamps. Then the 5 foolish ones asked the others, please give us some of your oil because our lamps are going out. But the others replied, we don't have enough for all of us. Go to a shop and buy some for yourselves. While they were gone to buy oil, the bridegroom came. Then those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was locked. Later, when the other 5 bridesmaids returned, they stood outside calling, Lord, Lord, open the door for us. But he called back, believe me, I don't know you. So you too must keep watch, for you do not know the day or the hour of my return.
So in this passage, it's like kind of a recap from last week, as far as the first part about the bridesmaids, and the ones that had the oil and the ones that didn't. And then when you get down to verse 10, when you get down to verse 10 and they go and the door is locked, I think this part is just like, to go with the mourning, like this is like the ugly like reality of it all is just that, like he says, you know, there'll be few that find it, and which means that not everyone's getting in, you know. And then like this is like a parable, of course, but I mean, this is literally like what's gonna, you know, take place.
That kind of triggered in my mind, like during like the tribulation, that kind of is like that period, like they're running to go get oil or whatever. You know, there's some, even during the tribulation, that'll be saved because they missed the first, you know, they missed the rapture, but that initial, you know, that morning that you speak of is like, even during the tribulation, there's some that, you know, how can you go through all that and still not, you know, believe or have a, you know, a hope for Christ, but some yet will still be saved, and that made me think of when they went to buy, it's like, you know, they had that one more opportunity. There's no more opportunities, like you say, once the door is shut, you know, after the tribulation, that's it. So yeah, now there's plenty of wailing gonna go on, and it's gonna be because of that lake of fire that's coming up. But yeah, it's like,
So what does the oil represent?
I haven't inserted my Bible. It says that throughout the Bible, oil symbolizes the Holy Spirit. And it goes on. It's talking to females.
So I guess the thing that, I don't know, because like you said that you see that as the tribulation period, but I mean,
well,
it doesn't ever say if they got it or not. So you know what I'm saying? So
well, I'm saying if you're like a believer, when we accept Christ into our life, and Holy Spirit comes to dwell within us. If you're not a believer, the Holy Spirit isn't leading and guiding you, and He's not in you, so you don't have any oil. And that would be those 5 that, you know, let me go find some oil, but they're jumping around, you know, searching for everything but what's real, you know, because there's a lot of false prophets, like the last message we had. There's false teachers, you know, people saying, oh, here's Christ over here, or, you know, the world's going to end over here, or, you know, they're teaching all different things. And if they don't have, you know, the Spirit of God in them, they're not going to, you know, be led to live as His word tells us to, because then they won't be convicted when they're not, you know. Because if you're in the world, you're gonna do what people in the world do, and we wouldn't expect them to do any different. So if you don't have any oil, to me, like you said, that's the Spirit of God within you, because He's not leading the direction. You don't have the Spirit of Christ, then what's the alternative? Remember, if you're not for me, then you're against me. So then you got the spirit of the devil, your father, you know, of the air, you know, whatever. He's who's leading, because there's only two sides. There's no, you know, I can't ride the fence. You got to pick a side. And like I said was it be hot or cold? For him, I guess. Does that make sense?
I think you were answering a different from what his question was asking, because he was asking as far as like the period of time that you were referencing. You were referencing the tribulation period, whereas in this passage, I
was
think
thinking about the door being shut, meaning like there's no more chances after that.
Okay. Does that answer your?
I guess.
Because the tribulation period is
Right. No, but I'm just saying.
From reading this is just saying that, like, this is it, like the final judgment when you think you're on the way in, but he says, you know, I don't see your name in here, and then they're like trying to plead at the last. It's like, no, it's like, you know, yeah, turn for me, like I never knew you. Like that's that. What I read, that's what I would. I think he got confused when you said tribulation period, as in that opportunity for a second chance, and related to this scripture. Is it clear? Do you have more questions on that?
No, I was just looking at it, going back to the first verse, and you think about it, because it says in verse 12? He says, I know you're not. And if you go all back to verse 1, it never once says that the groom knows who the bridesmaids are. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it's kind of like thinking like somebody you look up to or something like a celebrity, like, you know their name, but they don't know who you are. And you come to be like, I'm here to see such and such. And like, he doesn't know who you are.
Yeah.
And it's kind of making yourself known to him.
Yeah.
And again, it's about being prepared. Like the virgins with the oil, they were prepared for the long,
right?
You know, the long haul. I have a note that says, being ready means being prepared for a long delay. Short-lived zeal is inadequate, and so that's what the other 5 that didn't have the oil. They were just ready for that. They thought they knew the day, so they're going to try to prepare the day before, and it just don't work out.
So there's a couple points. It says, according to the teaching of this parable, what is the wisest thing and what is the most foolish thing a man or woman can do in this life?
Could you have more time? That's probably the most foolish thing you can do.
That's good.
That's the comment Q just said.
Think that you have more time?
Yeah, just, you know, just like, I'll wait. Tomorrow I'll do it. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll follow the Lord tomorrow. You don't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
Because you don't know.
I feel like also trying to find an easier alternative, because I know it's like hard wanting to like give control and give your life for something and having to be restrained in a way. And so like trying to find like, oh, what else can I do to like meet that without actually having to like do it.
Not fully being committed. Yeah.
That even goes back to the bridesmaids, because when they instead of just doing what they were supposed to do, they try to find a second way to do it. Now it's just taking over from the other girls. So I guess it's just, it just goes to show you that, like what he said, instead of focusing on when I should be ready, focus on like I should be always ready.
Yeah. I think the verse that kind of like sums it all up. In verse 5, it says, while the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And it's like, it's kind of like Michael's saying, and even like Q was saying in the comments, like that's just ignorance to think that, I have time. Like you don't know, like you may not even get to see that, you know, you could be gone tomorrow. So it's kind of like, that's just ignorant to think that, I got time, I can wait till tomorrow. It's like, no, like you need to be awake and be ready to go now, so that whenever he is there, you're ready. You're the first one in line, ready to go with your world.
I think about when Jesus was up praying, And he's like, and y'all keep watch.
Mm-hmm.
And they fell asleep.
Everybody was asleep.
And they fell asleep. And he was like, could you just 1 hour, man? Like, watch my back. You know what I'm saying? And they couldn't do it, you know, and they had let him down. One thing I was going to say for, I guess, the opposite of that would be, you know, to take advantage of the time that we do get would be the simple answer for the wisest thing that.
Yeah.
And not just like saying, okay, like but like really like making the most of the time, you know, not being minimal in what you do with that time. Whether it's for God, you're like, you set aside time for God, but is it going to be minimal effort or is it going to be, you know what I'm saying? Because he's given us his best. Like he's already done enough. He's given us his best. Does anybody have anything else for that? The next one says in verse 10 and 12, which we kind of talked about, it says, the foolish virgins make a impassioned plea to be led into the wedding. Why is the Lord's response just? Kind of goes back to the foolish thing you can do. They
They
didn't.
just weren't truly committed.
Playing around.
Just figured, oh, no, I'm gonna do this halfway, but that person's got enough for me. They have enough love of God or whatever to cover me. So I'm just gonna do the smallest amount I can do
Bare minimum.
because she's got me covered.
I think it just kind of like reveals like the motive, you know, like if something's important to you, like you're gonna get it done. It's kind of like, well, they only want me now because they see what comes with, you know, being my child. You know, and it's kind of like, well, you didn't love me because you didn't come to me because you loved me. You came to me because you didn't want to be punished. And it's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Jesus doesn't want anyone to come to him out of
Just because of what he's able to do for you.
yeah, instead of just truly loving him for what he's done for you, and not looking for what he can do for you.
Right. What can I get out of it?
Yeah.
And that's the society that we live in. What can I get? What do I get out of it? Do I get a discount? Can I get in, you know, can I get to hook up on this? Can I get this? It's just like we want like, not that those things are bad, but it's just like as a society as a whole, like it can have a negative connotation because it's like we're just looking for handouts. That's part of the problem nowadays, like with the where the money goes for the government, for people that's not working, that can work, but they just want the handout. You know what I'm saying? So just like as a whole, it looks bad. It looks bad.
I was gonna comment on like what Carol was talking about. It's like how people feel like they can use their parents or grandparents' relationship with Christ to get them into heaven, and it's not like that. And like you said, it's like you have to be ready for yourself to stand before Christ. It's like I can't. Well, I didn't know, Lord. My mama didn't tell me, or my brother didn't tell me. You can't point fingers at anybody because it's you and him, and it's on you to make sure that you're ready and you're watchful and you got your relationship straight with him, because you can't blame anybody else. It'll be all on you.
It's crazy that most people who think like that are people who are in the church.
Yeah.
In it or at it.
Say amen.
Absolutely.
But, you know,
True.
and if you read the Bible as much as you say you do, you would see that he says there's only one way. Like, don't piggyback up with somebody else. Like, don't sink your way in. There's one way, and that's through having a relationship with Christ.
And kind of going back to what we said earlier about like, I think Greg kind of touched on it, saying like how you use your time, kind of like dedicating time to him. And Greg was saying how he said all the virgins had the same amount of time and the same opportunity.
Right.
And so God is like we all, like whether or not it's the same background doesn't matter. We've had time. We all have time. We all have opportunity. It's kind of like what do you choose to do with it and how you go from there.
And I think that's why God's response is just being that he said, hey, I gave you guys all the same opportunity to be like successful, so to speak. You know, just like people that make excuses about, well, I wasn't able to get this or that. It was like, you've been given,
especially in this generation.
Yeah.
Everyone's there's a way you can get the word in some way. So saying you didn't know is not.
I feel like, sorry, that like his response with stress is because it's like the Lord asked, or they were told to bring a certain amount, right? And a lot of times, like relating back to today, is say you give 5 minutes to reading your Bible, but the Lord asked me to give 10. But you're thinking like you're choosing your feelings above his and being like, I'm gonna give 5 because that's what I feel like doing. Kind of like if you don't make the grades, you're not getting into the school. So it's like you walk up to the door, but it's like the Lord asked you to do something, but you're choosing to do what you want and thinking the time is best for you, and you're not doing what he asked. And the Lord only gives you as much as you can handle, so you have no excuse.
I think that some of what everybody says, I kind of think something my mom used to say growing up is that I understand it now that I'm older, but I didn't understand it then. She said that the only equal advantage of anything in life is basically the way to Christ is the one thing in life where everybody's got an equal playing field. If you think about it. Now, some other people may have some opportunities that, you don't have versus who they know, what they don't know. Whatever it may be, whether it's schooling, whether it's whatever, you can't control those. But the one thing that you can control and where all the playing field is even is the way to Christ in relationship with God. That's the one thing where we all got an equal playing field. So ball games even
He
there.
says there's no respect of person because he sees us all
Exactly.
the same. Yeah.
So, I guess, like I said, when I was younger, but now you get older, you realize that, oh, yeah, okay. You're right.
Can somebody read 12 and 13 out of that of 25?
Yeah, I got it. It says, but he called back, believe me, I don't know you. So you too must keep watch, for you don't know the day or the hour of my return.
Questions posed. What principle do you learn from the Lord's response in verses 12 and 13? Basically, what did you take away personally from out of that passage, 12 and 13?
He personally didn't have a relationship with him. I mean, when he said he didn't know him, he really didn't know him. They didn't spend any time with him, so it's like, well, okay, we don't have a relationship. You might know of me, but I know nothing of you.
Yeah.
Kind of like you said about like stars.
Yeah.
You go see somebody like, I'm going to see such and such. Okay, they don't know me.
Yeah, I think the thing I take away from it, kind of just piggybacking off of that, is kind of like, we need to know him, but it's like if the last time I talked to Deontay was 15 years ago, he's gonna be like, Jalen, like he's gonna try and like our name should be fresh on his mind because we're always talking to him, we're always in contact with him, we're speaking. So it's kind of like every day, am I keeping in touch with him? Am I making sure he knows who I am every single day? That's kind of how I thought about taking the step further.
Anybody else? No.
And to know, like Dad was always saying something about how can you know somebody if you don't, spend time with them? So it's like a husband and a wife. You can't necessarily know each other if I live in Washington and he lives in whatever the other side of the country, and we don't spend any time together and we don't talk. So the way we get to know him is, he left his word, so we know the things that he likes, the things he doesn't like, what he expects of us. All those things that you would have in a relationship with a person is how you get that with Christ through the word, and praying and that spirit. The spirit leads us and gives us things. It's like you say some stuff and you're like, where'd that come from? That came out of my mouth, but I didn't have it. What did I say? Because it's him, and so we learn to get to know him better that way. And I feel like that's kind of the thing I take of to know somebody is to know what they like, know what they don't, and that's how you build that relationship. Well, if I don't know, I need to find out some things. Let me ask them some questions. Lord, what am I supposed to do today? What do you want me to do today? That kind of thing, and just stay in contact, like Dale said, just daily. If he didn't hear, hear this girl praying again to me, what does she want now? It's almost, you want to just stay on his
Persistent.
on his ear always.
just gonna interject this scripture real quick. 2 Corinthians 13:5 says, "Examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how that Jesus Christ is in you, except ye be reprobates."
Say the scripture.
2 Corinthians 13:5.
The last part of this is just a question. If you want to answer, you can, but it's just to basically take home with you. What things are evidence of your readiness for Jesus' return? And then also, I'd like to add, it kind of came to me earlier. Question came in my head was, are you living for now or later? So it's what things are evidence of your readiness for Jesus' return, and are we living for now or later? Because the reward, there's a different reward for each of those, depending on the answer that you have. But that kind of sums up tonight in the parable of the 10 virgins. I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about next week. I guess we'll get it out in a couple of days. But that was a really good lesson. I took a lot away from it. Sometimes it's easy to just say, well, this is all pretty much saying the same thing. Well, like you said, you read it 3 and 4 times, and when we all interject and bounce things off each other, it brings more to the surface. So tonight was really good conversation. Does anyone have any prayer requests? Or does anyone have any praise reports?